Welcome, Prairie Bluffs. Glorious day down in Flint Hills. It's just couldn't be better, could it? With our ranch and carry Prairie Talks, we are sharing stories of families that have been in the Flint Hills for generations. And so when I wanted to learn more about the Mushrush family, I'm a little more, huh? Oh, no, you're waiting. Okay. When I wanted to learn more about the Mushrush family, I went to their website and I found they have two websites. One for the consumer like me and one for the rancher. My website, they've got the great family history and stories of cow and favorite family recipes. But then on the rancher website, I even had to take notes. They have information on genetic risk management, pasture-proven production, a breeding philosophy, and what I really loved is they have high expectations of their cows. Now that's where I want to get my beef. Anyway, and this is a family that's, of course, been ranching for 4 generations, and they just got a great story to share. And so please join me in welcoming Connie and Joe Mushroom.
You had to bear with us here today. Want to have a cheat sheet and find out that I'm more comfortable talking to cows than people. It's just the way it is. And if I don't use this, I'll tell you the same thing 4 or 5 times, so we don't regret that. You'll be leaving. So anyway, one of the things that we want to get across today in our presentation is we think that too often production agriculture or the cattle industry is viewed by outsiders, people not involved in that industry, as maybe we're out here and we're gonna dress up in our cowboy clothes and spit and say yee-haw and get on a horse and ride all day, and that's what it takes to get in the cow business. And that is not any place near the truth. What you're gonna find, and it's a great lifestyle. Yes, we love it, wouldn't do anything else. But before it can be a lifestyle, it is a business. It has to make money to support the lifestyle. And so we're going to touch on a few of those things today. What we're going to do is first off, I'll tell you what we are today. And then we'll go into a little bit about how we got there. And then we'll talk a little bit about some philosophies we use. One of them being the buzzword right now for anything in agriculture is sustainability. You have to be sustainable. And the problem with that is there's no definition, no standard definition of what is sustainable. So you will get to see the Mushrush 3-legged stool philosophy of sustainability. So anyway, Mushrush Red Angus, unlike some operations around old operations that might be what you would call a century farm or something, it's a square piece of land that has been at one family for multiple generations, and they've been living on that piece of land for a long time. We're relatively young. We were established in 1954 by my parents, Father and Lou Mushrush, and we have been growing since then, and we are still actively growing. We're not sitting static on a piece of ground. We are still growing our operation. We have 4 kids coming back into the operation. We're adding another one on July 1st, so coming right up. So anyway, what we are a 4-generation family operation. There are 4 generations currently living and working on the ranch. My dad, Robert, is seated there in the picture. Then Connie and I, Erzball, our oldest son, Daniel, and his wife and family are in the picture, are with us full time and are part owners in the operation. And then the kids that are still around, we have a picture of Madeline up there, is being a sophomore at Kansas State, taking animal science. So she is with us this summer and still around. So we put her in the picture and we took it. And then in the middle there is Chris. Chris is the one that is returning here on July 1st. He has been working in Cedar, or not, he's been working in Sioux City, Iowa as in a feed mill. He took milling to college, but he's going to return to the ranch, and he's getting married and going to return. And we told him that we have told all our kids that Anybody who wants to come home, we'll do it. We'll figure something out, you come back. And we were telling Chris, gosh, we hope we're doing the right thing for you. You know, we've got a good career started here, and we're hoping you're not screwing up your career. And he said, you know, if I had $1 million, this is what I would come and do. And he said, I don't have $1 million, but I get to do it anyway. So we're pretty excited about that. What we do, we currently run about 800 registered red Angus cows. They touch on why registered here during the talk in a little bit. We also have a program where we buy back heifer calves from bull customers, and we breed about 500 heifers a year and sell those. So what we are doing, we are seed stock providers. We sell seed stock to other ranchers, and we currently run on about 10,000 acres in Chase County. That's a mix of both owned and rented land. In fact, Jeannie Reeling's in here. She's one of our landlords. So we appreciate the support of all our landowners, and we are literally scattered from the Lyon County line, the Marion County line, and everywhere in between. Our marketing is done. Our main marketing is via a video auction, which is held every March. We sell about 200 bulls in that sale. The bulls go all across the country. The heifers we will sell privately, but at our sale, it's a little different auction than you might think. It is totally video. No animals come through a ring. Every animal is videoed. It's broadcast simultaneously on the internet. We have buyers all across the country that are sitting at home in their living room and are bidding during the sale. So, you know, and we aren't unique in this, but we operate in a global economy. Not only do we market nationwide, we currently have genetics in 8 foreign countries. That's a market that we work on all the time. Just this last week, in fact, we had a group from Argentina here, and this was taken Wednesday. A group of Argentine cattlemen. We host them about once a year. They are the biggest semen company in Argentina. Hosts this trip every year. They come to the United States, and we host them. My son Daniel, who is fluent in Spanish, he goes to Argentina about once a year. He will be going down the last of July, and he's going on a business/fishing trip. What we find with the South Americans is the relationship has more to do with doing business than the product. So rather than selling the product, we develop a relationship to sell. And so that's very important, and that's why he's the one that speaks Spanish, so he gets to go fishing. So, in addition to that, I just want to point out how world politics can affect things right here in little Chase County, and in ways you can't imagine. 5 or 6 years ago, we had a delegation from the country of Kazakhstan come by the ranch. Kazakhstan it's actually the 9th largest landmass country in the world. It sits between Russia and China, borders both Russia and China. And their native cattle in Kazakhstan is this right here. It's a red cow with upright horns of marginal meat quality. I mean, it's not very good to eat. And they realized that, and they were looking for a way to enhance the quality of their animals. And so we talked to them, and when they found out that a Angus or a red Angus animal bred to one of their cows was going to take the horns off of them, well, those horns are very important in their culture, and deal was off. That was a no-go, and so they left, and we thought that was the last of that. In the meanwhile, as you know, or maybe you don't know, just last month, China, for the first time since 2003, China's been playing political games with imports and so forth since 2003. U.S. beef has not been available in China since 2003. Just last month, the Chinese opened their market to allow imports from the United States again. We have the highest quality beef in the world in the United States. And I did a little figure. If everybody in China eats a quarter pounder for lunch, that's 426,000 head livestock. And that's so it's a tremendous market that we're looking at. But this, how this goes, Kazakhstan, right there's their neighbor, China is their biggest customer. They have a livestock industry, and all their meat is imported to China. They are now worried that China is going to like the high-quality American beef better than theirs, the red hides, the upright horns. And so here about a week ago, we got a phone call from the Kazakhstanis wanting to set up a conference call with them with an interpreter so they can figure out a way to import some of our Red Angus semen there to compete with the American beef that sell to the Chinese. So it's just all intertwined across the world, and you can't imagine. So that's kind of where we are now and what we're doing. We're going to go to the beginning. The ranch was started by my father and my mother, Bob and Uncle Lou. My dad grew up in town in Cottonwood Falls, but always had a passion for livestock and wanted to be a rancher. And so while he was growing up in high school, he worked for Helmore Stout and after school stuff. So we've come out here just down the road in Bazaar, worked for Helmore, went to college at Kansas State, majored in what would be animal science, now animal husbandry. And upon graduation from college, after a short stint in the Air Force, he and my mother came back to Cottonwood Falls and started the ranch on 400 acres of raw ground where we are now on Osage Hill, just east of Elmdale. And that was the start. They went in, there were no improvements or anything. They dozed out a little area, built a little house, which he still lives in, and the ranch was started. While they were starting up, he held a job with at that point in time was the ASCS. It was a forerunner of what we call FSA now. He worked part-time for ASCS, measuring when everybody was in the farm program in that time. There was no satellite imagery, and they put a picture around the field. He was one of the guys that went out with measure crops, so they knew how many acres. And so he did that part-time while they were getting started. As many as you might also know or know, the late 50s in this area of Kansas were marked with a severe drought. The Cottonwood, he tells stories about walking down the middle of the Cottonwood River. The Cottonwood River went dry. And of course, in that drought, they could raise no crops, didn't have water for the livestock, didn't have feed for the livestock. And he was forced to look elsewhere for income. And so in 1962, he took a full-time job in town because they drowned out. For the next 20 years, that starts then when I was growing up, we were fairly static for the next 20 years. He worked in town. We had about 100 head of commercial Hereford cows, which in those days, about every commercial cow in the country was a Hereford. And so we had about 100 head of commercial cows, and I would work those cows, take care of the cows before school and after school and so forth. And then even when I went to college, would come home every weekend because we had product, we were haying, we were doing something, and sometimes during the week, the classes would allow, came home, and so it was just a given that as soon as I graduated, I would be coming back to work on the ranch. And at that point in time also, as some of you from around here, my granddad, Frank Fry, when I was in high school, he and I had a partnership where we started stocker cattle. We would buy these little heifers and start them at his place and graze them in the summertime. And so we're talking about landlords. We rent 361 acres east of Strong City that I rented when I was in high school. And so it's been with the same landlord since then there. in 1980, Connie and I came back from K-State. It started, we had 100 cows, had to expand in order to make a living. We expanded our stocker operation at that time. And while I was at K-State, became interested in red Angus cattle. You hear about some of the colleges nowadays have a safe space for students to go and say, we had a safe space. It was called the Reading Library, Weber Hall. We'd go in there, sleep, mainly, and that sort of thing. But while I was sitting in there, I was reading livestock publications and was reading Red Angus magazine and became interested in their commercial focus and their philosophies and everything as a breed. So it became a natural as we became interested in Red Angus cattle. After we were back, we started using a Red Angus influence. We had the opportunity in about 1984 to buy 10 head of registered Red Angus cows. And we had already started using Red Angus bulls on our cows at that time. You could not find a Red Angus anywhere in the state of Kansas hardly. So we went to Oklahoma and bought a bull, really liked what we saw. We thought, well, if we could raise a few bulls of our own for our own use, we'd do that. And so we had those 10 cows. We were raising bulls out of those. The first year we sold a bull, we had 3 head. We got 1 sold, we kept 1 for ourselves, and we had 1 bull we didn't get sold. And so that was our beginning in the purebred industry. And what we soon came to realize, and we'll kind of roll in here in a little bit, we're going to talk about economics, but what appealed to us about purebred livestock was the opportunity to not be a commodity. We had the opportunity to be price setters, not price takers. And after you've been in a commodity system for a while and about go broke a couple times, that is a very appealing to be able to sell something and you set the price. And so then, I guess I forgot to say was Daniel and Christine come back. Daniel, we have I said we have told all the kids that we will make a place for them if they want to come back. And then unlike me, who came back straight from college, we have a family rule that they have to go work someplace else first. They can't come straight out. The purpose for that is so they realize that we are not the worst boss in the world. They got to go work for somebody who's worse than we are. And so Daniel worked for a stint for Cargill in animal procurement, being as fat cattle buyer, and then he went to a brokerage firm called Amarillo Brokerage in Amarillo, Texas, where they traded agricultural commodities. And so he came back with that, and like I said, Chris is coming back, and he has feed mill experience formulating rations and doing feed. So we want them all to go someplace and work and develop a skill that is useful before they come back. So Daniel and Christine came back in 2008 and have been here longer than we think now, 8 or 9 years period. So seems like they just came back the other day. But what we want to do, I said a while ago, we did not want to be in a commodity business. Because like I said, you go broke a couple times, and you want to change your system. And if any of you took Econ 101 in college, you know that any commodity system, whether it's cattle, agriculture is mainly an economy, is a commodity system. It's corn, it's wheat. There's other businesses, industries that have a commodity system. In any commodity system, over a long period of time, just the rule of economics that the average price received equals the average cost of production. And so what that means is, over the long run, if you are an average producer, you're toast. You're not going to be successful. And so we knew that we needed to change what we were doing, so we were not a commodity producer. We did not want to be a price taker. We wanted to be able to control our product. We wanted to be able to control the demand for our product. We wanted to be able to control the price we receive. And so that is why we switched to make a major focus on the purebred livestock. And I told you we were going to get to the Mushrush three-legged stool of sustainability. This is some of the philosophies as we conduct our business and look to be better than average is one of the things that we look for. And like I said, sustainability is a big buzzword now. There really is no standard definition. So it's just kind of up to yourself what you're going to see. So this is my interpretation of sustainability, and you have different legs in the stool. You have a three-legged stool, and without any one of these legs, you're going to fall. And the most important leg is economic sustainability. If you are not profitable, it doesn't matter what else you do, you're going to fail. You have to have a profit. The kids need shoes. And so you cannot, even if there's some practice that is socially, the thing that you need to be doing, and if it is not profitable, it's not sustainable. So the number one thing in order to be sustainable over the long haul is profitability. Going hand in hand with that, lost my place. Okay. But hand in hand with the economic sustainability is your environmental sustainability. We all have a duty and a desire to protect the environment and do the best job as we can out there protecting our resources. But ultimately, it is paramount that we do that, because if we abuse our resources, we will not be economically sustainable, because we will abuse the resources to the point where they won't support us anymore. And our number one reason that we want to be environmentally responsible is in this picture. This is a picture of the grandkids. This is the fourth generation to live on the ranch. Hopefully they want to come back and join us at some point in time. And if we do, we want it to be just as good for them. We want it to be just as good for the fifth generation, the sixth generation, and onward. And so if we take up practices now that for short-term gain, it is not economically sustainable in the long run. And so that is how these things are all intertwined on being economically sustainable and environmentally sustainable. Also, for some of the things that we do, the tallgrass prairie was formed with two main deals, fire and grazing. So those are our two major tools we use is fire and grazing. We burn when we need to control invasive species and keep brush at bay. In this area of the woods, in 30 years without fire and grazing, this country will return to a mixed woodland. It will be gone. And so it's very, very important that we keep that up. In addition to that, we want to use responsible stocking rates. We want to use the land responsibly to keep it in as good a condition as we can. We have implemented rotational grazing in our system. What we are trying to do is mimic the way the grassland was formed. When the grassland, the tallgrass prairie was formed, you had the native grazers, mainly bison, would come through, graze it hard, and then they would eat it off, and then they would leave, and it would have a long rest period. And so we have some restraints on that because of fences and land area, but we try to mimic that as close as we can. And as an example, these cows, and this was taken last week, we were rotating from a pasture. Actually, Jeannie, we were rotating out of your pasture here. These cows pass through that pasture. We ran a quarter section from Jeannie. There will only be cattle in that pasture for 18 days this summer. And they will be in there in 4 different stints. But only 18 days total. And what that does is it gives the pasture time to rest and get reinvigorated. And so the health of the prairie, the health of the grass is way better than if we just use a continuous grazing system. And what are another thing we do is invasive species control. We don't go out and broadcast spray pastures for weeds, because most of those, what we think of weeds out there, we want to call forbs. At some point in their lifetime, they are usable by the animal. They're part of the prairie, so we want to use them. But because man has been here as long as we have some species out there that were all introduced by man. That is a picture of a hedge tree in Osage, Georgia, that we have sprayed with Pordon. You can see it's brown. We will go through and do spot control of these invasive species. Old world blue stem is another problem. Tricia lescadisa. And so we're on the lookout for these things all the time and try to control them, because these are things that can reduce our productivity out there and ultimately be a hindrance. And what our ultimate goal is here, and you think about it, our goal is to increase the productivity of our ranch through proper grazing and managing these species and grazing distribution. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The proper grazing, using the rotational grazing, using periods of rest, like where we place mineral within a pasture, we can set how those cattle graze. And by doing all that, our goal is to increase the prairie health enough that the carrying capacity of our ranch will be increased by 20%. 20% is very much, it's very, very doable through proper management, be able to increase your productivity by 20%. And in our case, 20% is 160 cows. Now, if I was to go out and if we ran everything on a continual grazing system and traditional continuous grazing, left the cattle out there and just kind of left them on their own and didn't do much. If we can increase 160 cows over being able to do that on a carrying capacity, and we can, and the grass is actually better than it would be if we were continuously grazing, it would take $3.5 million to go out and buy the grass that we can run those 160 dead. So it is very much in our favor to be responsible and to develop these systems where we can increase the productivity and the health of the prairie. It's financially beneficial also. The last leg on our stool of sustainability is what I call social sustainability. Now, the problem with social sustainability is it's very hard to define. Everybody has a different idea of what it is. And this is what social sustainability is. It's the opinion of the consumer. Now, unfortunately, most consumers nowadays are far removed from production agriculture. At one point in time, everybody had a cousin or an uncle or something to farm, and they would go back and spend the summer there, visit, and they kind of understood what was going on. And now we don't have that. And so, unfortunately, most people will gather their information from an activist website, or worse yet, on Facebook. I mean, y'all know how that goes. So anyway, even though we want to be scientifically based, at times what the social opinion is, it's not science-based at all. In fact, many times it will go against science. And so we have to deal with that, but rather than fight it, you have to understand that perception is reality. mean, if that's what they think it is, that's the way it is. I mean, we have to deal with that. And so we do some things on the ranch to be proactive in these things. Are you concerned about pesticides? We are it's kind of an experiment this year in our mineral for our cows. We have put garlic and cinnamon in the mineral. The idea is that the cattle will eat the garlic and the cinnamon when they consume the mineral, and it will make them smell bad, I guess, and flies and ticks are repulsed by that. And I don't know about that. I know a bag of mineral smells like the pizza. So anyway, I don't know how that's going to work, but it's something that we're currently doing. Are you concerned about antibiotics? And people are concerned that they want to buy antibiotic-free meat. The truth is that, your meat is, you buy at the grocery store, if you go to Walmart, it is antibiotic-free. At one time in the United States, there was some antibiotics labeled to be fed for growth, for long-term, low-level feeding for growth promotion. That's illegal now. It has been for a number of years. You can't do that. And so we still want to use therapeutic antibiotics if an animal's sick. We're not going to deny care to that animal. We care too much about the animal. So if an animal is sick, we're going to give them an antibiotic to make them better. That said, then there are strict protocols for withdrawal by the FDA, and Tony will show you here in a little bit how we monitor that. But if we follow these strict rules, the risk level is approaching 0% in pigs. I understand it in pork culture is still higher, it's a little case what don't know. But in beef it'll approach 0%. The point is it's way under anything that's going to hurt you. But deception is reality. And so, there is a product available that is produced without antibiotics. It's available to you, so if you want to buy it, you can. Just be prepared. Remember that guy raising that has to be economically sustainable. He has to make a profit. He can't sell it to you anymore. It's going to cost more than your conventional products. Just realize that. But one of the things that on antibiotics that we do, we now have a strict vaccination program. We only give antibiotics with therapeutic treatment. If an animal is sick, the best deal is prevention. We can keep them from getting sick, and we don't have to eat them at all. So we have a strict vaccination program to do the prevention methods. And then this last year, we were also feeding at it as antibiotics are starting to get a bad rap. There are many new products that are coming onto the market that are available that show some promise. One we used this last winter and we're really excited about. It's actually a yeast product, an natural product made from yeast. It is a dead cell wall, it's an empty cell wall. And we mix this in with the animal's feed in a total dextration. And when they eat this, the bacteria in their gut is going to make them sick, which normally would go, what happens is they ingest bacteria and it's in them, and it will go and attach itself to the sides of the intestine. And then that's when you have an infection and you give the animal a shot of antibiotic to clear that infection. When they eat this empty cell wall, the bacteria are attracted to it and not the intestine of the animal. So the bacteria come and attach themselves to this cell wall, then out the back end. And so it doesn't affect the animal. So that's another thing that we're using. Another thing y'all hear about is hormones in beef. Nobody wants hormones in their beef. Well, for one thing, there's no such thing as a hormone-free food. You hear about, is this hormone-free? Any living food, plant or animal, contains hormones. Some of them more so than others. In the case of beef is measured, or hormones are measured in nanograms. It's a measurement that they use for hormones. Unimplanted beef has 1.3 nanograms per serving. And if it's an implanted steer, a steer serving of beef from an implanted steer will have 1.9 nanograms. And so it's a minuscule difference. And this is represented over here in the jar on the right. That's just the amount of hormones in a serving of beef. As you come across the jars, it's the amount of nanograms of estrogen. This is estrogen we're talking about. It's the common hormone used in beef when they give ear tags with hormone containing hormones. And as you go clear to the right, you see in one serving of cabbage how much is in it. It's just naturally occurring hormones. So you're way more, if you eat cabbage, you get way more naturally occurring estrogens than you do eating the beef. And just for giggles, we went and looked up to see how much estrogen was in one daily dose of birth control pill. And to equal that dose, you would have to eat 125,000 pounds of implanted beef to equal the same nanograms of estrogen. So that just is, we're just trying to put that in perspective. That said, that product is out there. In fact, look, we can sell you some because we produce some. That said, you know, we're not trying to swim against the tide. The product is out there. Just remember, it has to be economically sustainable. And if we're going to sell it to you, it's going to cost more because it costs more to produce. And so we have to have it. So, now let's see where they. Okay. Well, I was wrapping up like that. So here we go. So the summary of what I've been talking about is we always consider the well-being of the land in the cattle. And because it's all tied together, we cannot abuse the land if it affects our livelihood. We cannot abuse the cattle because they affect our livelihood. And to do so, we've got to use modern, up-to-date tools to do that. And then I'm going to hand over to Connie here for a little bit. She is our data manager on the ranch. And so she's going to talk a little bit about some of the data that we collect and so forth. And I will get this all put in.
When you all came in today, I inputted you into my system exactly like I do an animal that is born or is purchased and brought into our ranch. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I made a mistake, and that happens. I will scan in the EID, and then I would try to marry it through the tag. And I did so, but one of them didn't take, and I didn't see it. So one of you isn't going to make it. But Jared Whitman has worked with us, so he knows how anal I get about scanning cattle, and when I have a cow that I don't have her visual tag married to her EID, how I act. I get pretty crazy. But I put these two pictures up here for a reason. The picture to the left is a really good example of our three-stool sustainability. We take the chute to pasture and we weigh the cows. Well, in fact, we take a lot of data points on all of our animals every year, but that is a example right there of us doing least amount of stress to the livestock, least amount of interference with the environment, and yet we're getting our job done economically. And then the picture to the right, I wanted you to see an overview of our production cell, because while it is a video cell, we do have the cattle out there, but our video cell is very, very technologically evolved. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is a picture of the data that I collect. There's other things I do. I didn't put down. I put a little asterisk by the cattle data, but I want you to, for a minute, think that we have 800 cows, and I collect, I think that's 6 data points on every cow. Can you imagine if I was doing that by hand? I can't even do it with a machine on 40 people. So having technology and the ability to do that as seamlessly as possible is just, it's paramount. Couple that with about 800 calves, and I can't remember how many data points, I think that's a minimum of 8 on them. And while I'm collecting all these data points, I'm also collecting every time, you know, he said we have a very strong protocol for our health protocol for our vaccinations. I also monitor all of that. Every time we do a protocol on a group of cows, all of that goes into the system, married to the EID, which is hopefully married to the visual tag. And so that's how I say that. Okay, Joe, forward it.
I'm going to jump in.
Oh.
On the right, the picture there,
It is what we call a grow-safe bunk. What that feed bunk is doing, that EID tag that Connie handed you that she scanned and then took away from you because they're about $3 a piece. That EID tag, we put one in each animal's ear. That bunk actually only has room in each station with one head to stick its head in. When it sticks its head in, it records the EID so it knows who stuck his head in. It's got scales under it. It knows how much feed is in the bunk an animal eats. It weighs how much feed the animal ate. And when the animal pulls his head out, it records that he's gone, and it tells you how much he ate at that meal. And so over the course of the day, every time the animal comes up and eats, you get data back that tells you how many times that animal went to the bunk, what his total consumption was that day. And if you have an animal that doesn't go to eat, he's sick and he's in the back of the pen, you will get an email telling you, hey, go check 525, he didn't come up and eat. And so we take the weights of measurements and then we weigh the animals. And what we are doing is we're trying to determine what individuals are the most efficient. And so we know exactly how much a particular bull ate. And we use that then to see how much weight he gained. And just as you know from personal experience, some people are more efficient than others, and same way with the cattle. And so we are trying to figure out which cattle are the most efficient because it's those genetics that we want to propagate because efficiency is money.
And you might be wondering what we do with this data. All of this data is, and one of the reasons why we have to have it in a efficient, importable forum, it goes to the Red Angus Association or to our ingest Valve, and then we use that for the genetic input into the future genetics of our cattle, and then that, of course, is what we use for our own selection and what we use to sell for our commercial customers. Pat Sobel right there, long-time bull customer.